why is there a fire for education in you?
There can be many reasons. If we go back to my childhood, I remember I was very inspired by my teachers. There were two of my teachers whom I used to look up to a lot, and even the principal. Whenever I used to be in their classes, sit and listen to them, I always felt like they had very strong viewpoints. And the way they carried themselves, it just impressed me a lot. And I was always very excited on Teachers' Day, whenever that used to come. I remember because I was amongst the top students, I always got a chance on the Teachers' Day to even, play the role of the principal. But there was this one teacher whom I looked up to so much, so I would always want to play her as a teacher and not the principal. So yeah, I think from there my interest into teaching as a profession grew, and I also think it's somewhere in my genes because my mom is into teaching.
Oh.
My nanny was into teaching. So
like it's a rule like in your family for all females to teach.
it has been like that, not by design, just, yeah, they have made that choices.
Everyone has a passion for education in some way or the
Everyone
other.
has a passion for education.
So
yeah.
this was like your childhood dream, teaching.
Yeah, this was like my childhood dream.
Did you not have like
teaching.
any unrealistic dreams like are astronaut, cricketer? Like,
No unrealistic dreams. I was very realistic, I think, since childhood.
so when you were a child, you thought I'll be a teacher. Like, was it simple or like did you face any challenges like as a teacher?
No, it was actually very simple, and I also think that I could imagine myself being a teacher very easily because, as I said, if you see school, when you become teacher as a professional, you will be working in a school environment. It's an environment where you have already been. So I think that helped a lot, and I said that things like this, the Teachers' Day, it is kind of a simulation, right, of what you're going to be and how your day is going to look like in future. And I feel that, in fact, when I do career counseling, I feel that there should be such simulations for so many more careers, so that students will feel so comfortable from the very beginning and get an idea of how a day in this profession looks like. So that ways it was very easy for me to imagine me being a teacher, because on Teachers' Day, you literally take the role of that. You dress like a teacher, you have your schedule for the day. And I think that if in schools, school children or maybe college children are able to have those kind of simulations for, let's say, other careers they want to, be into, whether it's a doctor, whether it's an engineer, where you have a day where you get to simulate that career, I think that would help them a lot to gain clarity of how a day or in that work or profession looks like.
So have you like only taught on university level or like
So
8th, 9th, 10th?
during my B.Ed days, so when I was doing B.Ed, I did B.Ed from BTTC college. It is one of the top B.Ed colleges in Mumbai. In those days, in the last 2 semesters, you have to be a teacher assistant, and there I worked across schools of Mumbai, teaching, young children, maybe 8th grade, 9th grade. So you shadow the teachers first, and then they give you the opportunity to teach in, independent sessions, a topic like that. So yeah, I have taught school children also, but in my internship, days or teaching assistant days.
Are there any challenges that a student should know that teachers face, like daya khalo karke kuch?
Challenges as in classroom challenges,
Yes, like
while teaching.
something like a challenge a teacher would face, but like a student would like never realize ki acha aisa sab bhi hota hai.
See, the way our education system is going on for so long, if you see, it's a very one-way thing. That, okay, you have been given a class, it's a setup where a 60 batch of 60 is sitting, and the one person is, going to come, the teacher. So there is a very subconscious kind of expectation set amongst those 60 that the person who is coming, who is standing there, should know everything or will know everything. I think that something builds kind of a pressure on some people, and in today's world where knowledge is so easily accessible, it's very much possible that someone amongst that audience knows something better about something than the person who is standing, there. And then there are a lot of things when you structure a lecture, when there is a session which is structured, you have to take the syllabus from this part to this part. You have a limited time. You have to ensure to take attendance. You have to ensure that discipline is maintained. So there is a lot of multitasking which a teacher needs to do, and that's why they create, I think, positions like, teaching assistant or CR, the class rep, to help teacher in all those things. So it's not just about teaching, it's also about so many other things. And you add on to that things like, everyone is a different individual, everyone is at a different grasping, state. So how a teacher ensures that her attention goes to all 60 in the class, she doesn't miss out. So, and if someone is distracting the class. So, yeah, there are many, I would say, managerial challenges rather than, okay, I am here to teach, rather than the teaching and the knowledge sharing aspect. There are many on ground logistical and managerial challenges.
See, as a student, like, I would never think of that. Like, it's very obvious, but like, a student would never think of this.
Correct.
Can we talk about your academic background, like bachelor's, master's?
Sure. So I did my, okay, so I'm a science student. After 10th, I was one of the top 5 in my school. And
Subtle flex.
back then, in my days, it was like if you are anywhere on the top, science is the choice for you. I mean, that was a very rigid mindset. And that's why I didn't even think twice before picking science as a stream. And I come from state board. So I did my HSC 12th in the state board. So you had those, very clear different streams, like science is science, arts is arts, commerce is commerce. Unlike IB boards, you don't have the flexibility to mix and match the subjects. So, and then when I chose science, I chose all this combination, PCMB, physics, chemistry, math, bio. And as you would know, after 12th science, there are 2 most commonly opted paths, which is engineering and bio. So usually what students do is they opt out one subject, whether either they will drop out bio or they will drop out math. Physics and chemistry, it remains constant throughout. They are compulsory choices, either field that you have to choose. So after I did all 4 subjects in my 11th. In my 12th, I had the option to drop out one subject, but I liked both. I liked math as well. I liked biology also as much. So I still didn't have the clarity. So I took all the 4 subjects in my 12th as well. Once the 12th was done, then now I had to make my choices as to whether I have to go for engineering or I have to go for medicine. So I actually applied the same approach which I told you, that I imagined myself. So medicine, going ahead, is that you will be becoming a doctor. That's the path you will choose. So I just sat down with myself and just tried to observe that how would a day in the life of a doctor look like. It is, you have firstly so much responsibility, and the environment that you are in, it's not very, let's say, exciting, but it's very stressful. So, and even if I would think of myself, let's see, being a general physician. So what do a general physician do, right? Who are the kind of people who come to you? They are not happy faces, you will see. They are in stress, right? They have problems. So I would always ask myself this question, that am I someone who can, let's say, meet 20, 30 people in very distress time of their life and still maintain that kind of positivity for myself, which I was never sure about. And that's why I thought that although I can become a doctor, and it's something which is a very aspirational profession, and I loved biology, I loved understanding how the human body works and so on and so forth, but can I make that as a profession? So it was a clear no, the answer was. So I dropped that path. The second best path was for engineering, and I did my JEE. JEE was introduced for the first time that year.
Oh,
So we were the initial batch, and I gave my JEE. I didn't clear for the JEE advance, but the first level I got a decent score. So I got into good institutes, and again it was, I mean, my admission was done, I remember, and it was just I had to go tomorrow to make the fee payment. It was that's time. And that night I just sat with myself and I asked myself that I really need to do this? Do I really feel that I'll be a good fit? Because again, being an engineer, and the stream that I was looking for was computer science, because that is the, even till today, the most common stream which people choose. To be, I think, in any other branch than computer science, whether it's mechanical, chemical, or construction, you have to be very much passionate about that, and I clearly was not. So for me it was a very clear choice of computer science. Again I sat back and I just thought that, will I be okay doing a desk job, sitting, and screen is the one thing that I'll be interacting with for 13 to 14 hours per day, because that's what coding is. So it was again not a very clear yes. So wherever I feel yes has to be 100% in life, according to me. If it's not
all or
100%
nothing.
yes, then it's a no. So the next day I didn't go, I didn't take the admission, and there I was, blank slated, because all my friends had either taken medicine or went into engineering, or some of my close friends were in CA, so they had started that journey. So now I was sitting there completely clueless that, okay, I have reduced and removed all my options, but now I have to decide what do I have to go ahead with. And that's when I thought that I've always been passionate about education as an industry. I've always loved to teach, right? And I like these subjects also, whether it's math, whether it's bio. So why don't I go ahead and build my career path into becoming a teacher? And I have, like, what are the skills that you need? You have to be empathetic, you have to be good at communication when you're looking, and you have to have the subject matter expertise. So broadly these are the three skills which teaching as a profession will need, and I had these skills decently well. So I decided that I'll do my BSc, and then I had to choose. Now again, within BSc you had to choose a subject. It was either math or either bio. So I spoke to one of my professors from 11th 12th, and he guided me that if you take math as a subject, you will have more opportunities to interact with students from various fields, because math is a subject which is common across fields. Even commerce students have it, science students have it, and art students also have it. So you will be able to teach and interact students from various fields and various backgrounds. So that's how I entered math as my specialization. I did my BSc in mathematics. I went ahead to do my MSc in mathematics, and back to back completed that 5 years. And after that I took a gap year of 1 year, and then I went into doing my B.Ed for 2 years.
As an individual, see, this is a two-part question, okay? How do I decide whether I want to pursue a master's degree? And if I want to pursue a degree, like, how do I decide whether I should study in India or abroad somewhere?
Okay. Good question. Your first question was, how do I decide the
Where-
master's
yeah,
degree?
should I have a master's degree or no?
See, I think the kind of the job scenario which is there right now, and the expectations which have been set maybe from the education domain itself, master's degree is always good to have if you're wanting to build a career in corporate. I mean, it's always something that will be an add-on that will always help and it will never be something that will, create, that will be a disadvantage, let me put it like that. So if you're looking for a corporate career path, a long term one, so master's degree will always help. If you're looking for something like having your own startup or taking on with your family business, then it's a, if you do, if you don't do, it's a very personal choice. It's not something that will make a difference, right? Because you're not trying to go up the ladder in a corporate role, in a corporate world. Here in your family business or in your startup, then your master's degree will purely be that, okay, I want to learn this skill, that's why I'm doing a master's degree, not because it's the need of the career path that I'm building for myself. So I would like to, differentiate it that ways, that you have to think of what you have to go ahead or do next, and then you can decide that if master's degree is for you or not. As long as you are wanting to build a career in corporate, master's degree will always help. The interesting part there is when you do the master's degree. It's not that, okay, immediately after your graduation you have to do your master's degree. There you have to be, I think, very smart to decide that when should I do my master's degree and where should I do my master's degree from. So now coming back to your question as to should I do it from India or should I do it from abroad, I think it's very clear in the sense that one is, why would you want to do it from abroad? There are certain set of reasons. The biggest one is you're planning to move abroad, you're seeing your future abroad. So doing a master's degree from that place makes much more sense because it will help you to land up a job there. And so if that is, the life goal, let's say that I want to settle abroad, that is one of the cases in which a master's degree abroad will help, one. Second is, when you think that, okay, let's say I have a family business here or I want to do my startup here because next 10-15 years are the best years for Indian ecosystem to start a business or to grow a business, but I don't want my global exposure to be compromised. So then I'll look for a master's degree abroad because the 1 or 2 years that I'll spend abroad, it will give me enough global exposure, enough knowledge and enough networks. And then I come back and continue with what I'm doing. So broadly in these two goals, you can look for a master's degree abroad. And rest, a master's degree in India is extremely and very much, helpful and of a lot of advantage.
What matters more, like the master's degree or the skills a person should possess?
Both are important. Context is different. I think what one should think of is master's degree is not something mandatory. See, when I'm talking, because what I have observed even amongst my peers is that, especially in Indian context, master's degree, especially masters abroad, it's looked at as something, they look at it like marriage, that once you reach a certain age, right, you have to do it. And because everyone else is doing, that's why you should be doing it. So I think that when you are thinking of doing a master's abroad, there are 3 things which have to be very clear. First is the why. And I think these same 3 things are very valid in marriage also. So if people are sorted in both the things, then it's the right thing to go ahead. So first is why. Why masters or why MBA? First question should be that. You should have a very clear answer. Then the second is from where. Now this where can be the country or the university. You should resonate very well with the university that you're applying to. Every university has its own personality. So you should be well read about each and every university that you're applying to and see that does the personality of the university resonate with my personality, resonate with what I want to do. For example, many universities in US, they are very research driven. So that's the main core that they look at. There are some universities which look at the holistic growth of a person, and that's the kind of profile they want. That a student should be, very active in sports, in community service, in academics also. Then there are some universities which are purely academic driven. They only look at the academic background and don't give as much importance to the other aspects of your personality. So I think that where is also very important. Then you will also apply to the right universities, and your chances to get into the universities also more. So first is your why should be clear, why MBA. Second is from where. Third and very important again aspect is when, as I was telling you earlier. It is not necessary that you should go immediately after your graduation. You can go after 1 year, you can go after 2 years. It also depends on what, again, your career goal is. What are you trying to achieve? Like, let's say, in the case of a student who is just wanting to do a master's degree purely for an exposure purpose, like we discussed, right? He just wants to have that global exposure. For a student like that, doing it after graduation is fine, because ultimately he or she wants to come back and focus on the business. So the sooner they complete the academic cycle, it's better. For someone else who is wanting to build a corporate career, or grow up in that ladder, so they can work, and ideally all the universities abroad, any good institute would expect you to have had some kind of work experience, at least 2 years. So you do your graduation, you work for 2 years. That will not just help you to understand the work culture, but also it will help you refine your interests. Because when you're studying, you're just in books. But when you do, you understand, if I really like doing this, not just knowing aspect of this. And then applying for a master's makes so much more sense. For some people, even after 2 years, it might not be, they might not feel the need to do it. They might want to do it at the mid-career level, when they are, let's say, into 5 to 6 years of their work profile, and then they feel the need that I should, do it. So I think that a person, whoever is wanting to do masters abroad, once that these three things are clear, why, where, and when, then they'll make the very right and unique choices which will help in their careers, rather than just doing it because my friends are doing it, they are going to this place, that's why I should also apply to this place, and they are doing it immediately after this, so I should also do immediately after this. And that's what I said, it's same like in marriage. You should not go by because everyone is doing it and there is a certain age attached to it. So you should have your three things clear. Why should I get married? With whom should I get married? And when is the right time for me to get married in my life journey? Once these three aspects are clear, then I think you will make the best choices.
What was your thought process while making the decision to study here, like to complete your master's here?
So that's very interesting actually. After I was done with my BSc in math, I wanted to do my MBA. I wanted to take a gap year, prepare for the CAT, and then apply to the IIMs. That was what I felt at that time I should be doing. Although I didn't have the idea of which specialization I would want to take in, but then I thought that because it's a 2-year journey, I will get enough time to explore the specialization and then make a choice. Because of some personal family reasons and the guidance I got from, at that time from my parents, they suggested that I should go ahead with MSc in mathematics, not go to a MBA at that stage. And also back then, the academic gaps honestly were not taken as, openly, or they were not as accepted as they are today. So my parents, they didn't like that idea very much of me taking a break here, because I told that I will not be working. Because when you're preparing for CAT, you need to put in that amount of effort to be able to crack it. So they said that, you know what, you just finish this path that you have chosen for yourself. And because math is a very different. I had done BSc in pure math, not even applied math. So it's a very different subject in itself, the way it flows. So also the thing was that there is a flow that you are in right now. If you continue that flow right away, that will make much more sense rather than you taking a break and then going into it. So, and MSc mathematics, it didn't require, MSc for that matter in general, any field doesn't require you to have a work ex. So I immediately applied for my MSc in mathematics, and I thought that I'll finish that journey. The next step in that journey was to do a PhD, because that was the original intent that I started my professional journey with, which eventually changed because once you go ahead in the path that you have planned, you get so much more exposure and you realize that, maybe there are more things I want to explore. So after MSc, the path was to do a PhD, but yeah, that's a whole different story why I didn't do that. So yeah, for me, it was about at that time finishing a degree in a sequence. And so I dropped out completely the MBA idea. I thought I'll do it sometime later in my journey. And to just finish this path, because this is the right time and the pace and the flow. And I do feel that it was the right time at the right pace, because if I were to go back now to do a MSc, it would have been a very long break and I might have not felt like doing it.
Any thoughts on doing the MBA now?
Yes, I might do it in, maybe 1 or 2 years. So
You have been teaching like for 10 years? Like how long?
no, not for 10 years. I've been teaching formally, I've been doing
No,
for the
teaching
past
in general.
5.5.
5.5 years. So like you have taught enough to know what are like the issues, the gaps in the Indian education system.
I mean, I'm not an expert for sure, but definitely there are some things that I've observed which I feel, can be bridged or can be, bettered. So, a little bit of context. I've spent enough time in education industry, we can say, not just teaching, because before I got into teaching, I had started my own career counseling consultancy, and through that also I got the exposure to understand the education industry from a different lens than how a teacher experiences the education industry. So from various different lenses, the role that I'm currently in, I'm still in the education domain as we discussed, and I get to meet a lot of key stakeholders in the education domain. I get to meet the principals of the schools, I get to meet the chancellors and the vice chancellors of the schools and work very closely with them. At university level, I get to meet the deans, the VCs, the presidents. So across my experience within the education domain till date, if I can say that things which are being done to a large extent, but of course you can that can be looked upon more, is one is I feel that education in today's time should be more collaborative than competitive, because I feel going ahead, the only way for people to genuinely grow is by being collaborative, by helping each other. And even if you look around, right, you learn the best when you talk to your peers, and when you have that supportive kind of a group, a community. So I think the traditional way in which the education system works, at least the earlier schooling years and the competitive exams, they really push you to choose yourself over someone else, or it builds more of a competitive spirit, which is good to a certain extent. Now, like for example, INSEAD, you would have known of, it's one of the top B schools in the world. They have this no disclosure grade policy. So even if you are the topper in the class and I'm the lowest in the class, we wouldn't know, right? It's no disclosure. You don't have to disclose it, right? So, but we will still treat each other as humans and as peers and continue to learn. I believe a lot in those kind of policies and in more collaborative, learning. Because even if you see the corporate world, ultimately you will be going and working in teams. Whether you are at a manager level or you are at an associate level, so what I'm saying is whether in that team structure you are sitting on top of it or you're one amongst the team members, you always have to be collaborative to make that project work, right? So I think the one thing, it has to be more collaborative than competitive, and policies like these can help a lot, I believe. Second, which even NEP 2022 speaks a lot, it has to be skill based, right? It has to focus more on skill, more on practical learning than on theory based, knowledge. When I'm saying skills, I'm talking about skills on various levels. It has to be your higher order cognitive skills, so your problem solving, your critical thinking, your analyzing skills. These kind of skills have to be developed way more. Also, your people skills. I believe in today's day and age and going ahead in future, people skills will play so much role in defining your career path, in defining how well you do in your career. Because in the world that we are living in, AI is sinking more and more in every industry, in every field that we can think of. So where would you place a human? That human skills, the people skills, will play a lot of role in how, in like let's say today they need a company, any company needs 100 engineers to code. Now, with the AI coming in, there will be way lesser people who will be needed to code because AI can code also, right? So I don't know what the proportion will be, but it will be definitely less than 100. So now how will a company make a choice that I have to choose these particular people? So apart from coding skills, it will be the human skills. How well you're able to gel with the team, how well you're able to communicate your ideas, how well you're able to use the AI to analyze it and to make it, use it for further predictions. So I feel that human skills and higher order cognitive and thinking skills, it should start from schooling and should be developed from that aspect. The education in general should focus more on that. This was the second aspect. The third aspect, I did mention a bit about it, is AI, artificial intelligence. I think everyone talks about AI. Everyone knows that AI will be a part of whichever career path I'm going to choose or be in tomorrow. But people are still looking at AI as a competitor. That, okay, my job will be taken away. Or that's how the scenario is being made, that the jobs will be taken away. So I think it's very important from the school level itself for the students to get understanding of what actually AI is, where does it start, where does data analysis end, or where does the math part of it end, where does AI, machine learning actually come in, and how do I use it rather than being fearful of it. So I think, and many schools, by the way, many boards on a board level, they are doing it. Many schools also on a school level are bringing in AI as a subject. So I was recently I was in Singapore as a project manager for one of the projects of my current company, and I had a batch of students from one of the very well known schools in Dubai. And there they have brought in AI as a subject in the curriculum from 9th grade onwards. So I think those kind of initiatives should be taken and will be taken eventually, because once I understand AI, I'll look at AI more as a companion and not more as a competitor.
Do you think my generation will struggle more in like a career perspective because of AI?
As I said, if you look at AI as a companion, and the good part for your generation is that you all are much more used to tech in general, because you were exposed to phones way earlier than we were. So you're very comfortable with tech. You should just use that knowledge rightly, and if you make AI as your companion, then it wouldn't be as much of a challenge to grow in your career paths, because then you will be knowing that clear distinction of, okay, this is the work that AI can do, so these are the skills that I should be focusing and brushing upon. These are the tasks in a day which AI can take off, so my role and my focus should be on this.
I want to know like what content you consume online.
I listen to podcasts like yours,
I
and
see.
yeah,
Are you one of our 173 subscribers?
I am. I very much am. And apart from that, I do listen to other podcasters, and
Like who?
like Nikhil Kamath,
WTF podcast.
WTF podcast. It's on the top of my list.
I actually believe like if aliens come to India, like Nikhil Kamath should be a negotiator with them.
Why do you think that?
Because like for me he's like the Joe Rogan of Indian podcasting industry, and like
Right.
the knowledge he has like from like various industries and him in general, the persona, the aura. Like
Yeah.
I think so aliens will like that.
Like that. It's the knowledge, and I personally resonate with him a lot because of
Sindhi?
the. No. He's not Sindhi.
No?
No. Raj Shamani is. He's not Sindhi. Because of his thoughts, how clearly he is able to articulate them, and the fact that he comes in front and expresses that in front of everyone. So I get a lot of self validation while I watch his podcast. So whether it's about when he talks that, okay, child trauma is an actual thing. He talks about the importance of therapy. He talks about how your childhood experiences play a major role in building your personality or how your worldview is, or his thoughts on how relationships should be in general, and how the growth story, the passion, and the vision that he has for Indian ecosystem, the business ecosystem. I resonate with all of that on a personal level, and it's so good for someone to come ahead, and someone of his level, right? And to talk about these things and make these things feel very normal. Like he says that even I have lows in my life. That so for someone of his level, if he comes ahead, and he also talks about how social media should be used to show the true selves rather than just showing one part of our lives. So I resonate a lot with his content and the way he talks with people and brings in so much of knowledge for everyone's exposure. So yeah, I appreciate that a lot.
Do you read, like are you a avid reader?
Yes, I'm very much of a reader.
So is there something like recently, like did you read something that like stuck with you?
Yeah, I didn't read about it. I heard about it. I was listening to one audiobooks. There is a very interesting concept called principle of charity. And someone actually told me to go and read about this. I was talking to this very senior consultant who is an ex-INSEAD, and I went to him to seek some career advice, and I was facing some challenges in terms of just navigating my path and dealing with people, right, and how to handle this situation. So I reached out to this person, and he was kind enough to give me his time, and he told me that Anupama, you should look up to this principle of charity concept. So I went and I studied about it. Very interestingly, the principle talks about two things. So you have to make your hypothesis as, one hypothesis should be that life in general or reality in general is ambiguous, right? That is one assumption that you make in life. Second assumption you say is that people in general on an average are reasonable, right? So when I'm saying that life is ambiguous, what I'm actually trying to say is, you know, that 6 and 9 situation, the same thing that looks like a 6 to you looks like a 9 to me. So different world views. So that is what we are talking about when we are saying that assume that in general life is ambiguous, reality is ambiguous. And second thing you assume is that on an average, any person is reasonable. Now, what happens is when you take these two perspectives with yourself in your day to day, whether it's personal life, whether it's professional life, what will happen is when you are facing any kind of a challenge in trying to, understand what's going on. So, what you will do is you will try to find a reason to why that person did whatever he or she did, and a charitable interpretation you will try to make that will help you understand and look at a situation in a very different way. Maybe I was assuming that this person was, thinking of this as a 6, but from his viewpoint, it's looking like a 9. So you have to make charitable interpretations of people in general. Why you have to do that? Because you have a common hypothesis or assumption that reality is ambiguous and people in general are reasonable. So when you try to take this perspective that you will find charitable interpretations for people, you will start looking at life, or you will start interpreting life in a very different way, right? When you look at life in a different way, then your experiences will change. The same thing which would have caused me discomfort otherwise now will not cause me discomfort. I will be more empathetic, I will be more understandable, and for fair reasons. Once that happens, so basically your understanding of life is changing, that will change your experiences, and once your experiences will change, you accumulate all those experiences, and on a whole your life will change. So he ended that talk with a very beautiful thing by saying that the world of a happy man is very different from the world of an unhappy man. And it's purely because how we look at situations and what meaning we take out of those situations. So, and I have been reading about that and listening to it again and again, and it has helped me so much. Just that pure assumption that, hey, you know what, life is ambiguous, and it's like that for everyone. Sometimes we feel, right, that ambiguity, that I'm not clear, and then you assume that everyone is reasonable whatever they are saying. And I didn't have this worldview earlier. I would not assume that on an average anyone is reasonable. We don't think like that. But when you start thinking like that, I think it makes you way more empathetic, way more humble, and it changes your experiences from the minutest, eventually changing your entire life. You can actually go from being an unhappy person to a happy person.
What book is this?
This is not a book, this is a concept, principle of charity.
Principle of charity. Is there any advice you have for our viewers?
So I'm assuming your viewers are somewhere in
16 to 24, 48% demographic.
16 to 24. Yeah, I think this is the best time, best stage of your life to be in, and it's always looked at. So 20s in general, as soon as you enter your 20s, you have this assumption that this is the building phase for me. Now it's the time for me to bring everything, together. Whatever I have been thinking about, whatever I have been studying, now it's the time to bring it all together and, to have it all on that journey. But which is a good thing and which is true to a large extent, right? That this is the time you apply everything that you have accumulated till now. But at the same time, 20s, especially early 20s, is also the time to unlearn so many things. it's also the time for you to reflect back and to decide that okay, there are some things which I might not want to take ahead from here, which I might want to, leave behind in a good way. So it's a very very good time, and people shouldn't be scared. And what I love about this generation is people are not scared. Like, they did their majors in one, field, but they have that courage to change the path and do something else. And your friendships will change in this time. You have been having a set of people who were with you throughout your academic journey. Now, when you go in the real world, it will all change. You might not be as close to them, and that guilt might come in. That, okay, why those equations are, not the same. But there's nothing to be guilty about. Some of them will come along with you, and
But not all.
but not all. So it is a lot about, you'll have to leave a lot behind. You will take so much from what you have, learned so far. But yeah, you should be definitely very very open, very experimental and risk taker at this stage, because ultimately your 20s is all about, how your rest of the life will be. This is the personality, because once you are in your late 20s, to a certain extent your personality is fixed, right? You will not be as malleable as you were in the earlier, times of your life. So you have to consciously decide that okay, which aspect of my personality I want to actually take ahead, and if there is something I want to shed. So you will shed also a lot of layers of your personality, and this is the best opportunity and the best time to do it. So how I like to describe 20s is the most scary and the most magical phase of your life. So you should use it very wisely.
Thank you for joining us.
Most
You have been
welcome.
an amazing guest.
Thank you.